in the day after, we got some very interesting slides that emerged by way of a WNBA owners leak. And look, I don't believe that they just put it out there. They turned it over to ESPN. It got put out, and it was because, hey, the owners understand that there's a large section of sports fans that are on the side of the...
That pause says more than words ever could. After 6 weeks of total radio silence from ownership, a sudden, highly detailed leak lands with ESPN, complete with salary figures and revenue-sharing specifics. That's not a coincidence. It's a calculated play in what's shaping up to be one of the most heated labor battles women's sports has seen. And the timing matters. It drops immediately after some players skipped a crucial CBA meeting on Monday, which only sharpens a message being sent.
To address in the CBA. And of course, it had been 6 long weeks. It was a 6-long-week winter. There was snow, there was ice, until they finally got a new proposal from the WNBA owners. Well, that proposal came late last night. It came last night.
Here's what's on the table. WNBA owners have put forward a plan that would raise maximum salaries from about $1.87 million in the final year of the current CBA to roughly $2.4 million under the next deal. Under that framework, the average player would be earning around $1 million by the end of the agreement. For a league that has yet to post a profit, those figures are eye-popping. But that proposal is nowhere close to what the WNBA Players Association is pushing for. The union isn't interested in net revenue after expenses. They want 30% of gross revenue, right off the top. And with league revenues climbing, that distinction changes everything.
From like 1.81 or 1.87 million in the final year of the CBA up to 2.4 for the max salary. And it escalated salaries up to $1 million for the average player by the end of the next CBA. Was that the new proposal? Or is this a new one? Is this one we haven't got the details of yet? I'm sure the Players Union is going to...
Now look closely at how this breaks down. Under the league's proposal, players would take home more than 70% of net revenue after expenses are covered. That includes investments in upgraded facilities, charter flights, 5-star hotels, medical care, security, and arena operations. In other words, once the bills are paid, roughly 70% of what's left would go to the players. But that framing doesn't satisfy the union. Players Association President Nneka Agwamike has made it clear the sides aren't remotely aligned on revenue sharing, signaling the players are standing firm on their demand for 30% of gross revenue. And Adam Silver has already gone on record saying that model simply isn't financially sustainable.
You're going to play 20 games, then forget it. Just close the whole thing down. That's not what fans want after watching. Number one, look, 3/4 of all fans are tuning in for Caitlin Clark. And after seeing her have to deal with the injuries and everything and only seeing 13 games last year, nobody wants to see 20 games from this league. We want to see every game.
Here's where it gets messy. The season is slated to begin May 8th, but before the WNBA can even tip off, an expansion draft, free agency, and the rookie draft all have to happen. And right now, none of that is moving. All of that is on hold, AU Mike told the Associated Press. She says she's confident games will be played in 2025, but pay attention to the wording. Games will be played, not a full season, not a complete schedule, just games. If that ends up being 20 games instead of an actual season, that's not progress. That's a PR nightmare, and one that could set the league back years.
To begin May 8th, but an expansion draft, free agency, and rookie draft also need to happen before the league tips off. Agumake said once the revenue sharing is solved, the rest hopefully will fall into place. Quote, we made the point that once we...
Think about the bind this creates for everyone involved. Roughly 3/4 of WNBA fans tuned in last season specifically to watch Caitlin Clark. She took relentless physical punishment, missed 13 games with various injuries, And now fans are already pushing back against the idea of a shortened season where she might only appear in 20 games. Interest in the league has just exploded in a way it never has before, and yet there's a very real chance everything stalls out right at the exact moment that momentum was finally, unmistakably there.
Proposal, it's given us a gift of time, and so, in December, after the strike authorization vote, we were able to meet in Miami and talk to players. Having the strike on the table is something we're very much aware of, but there's so many more conversations that have to happen. It would be a horrible, we talked about it, a public relations nightmare if they call a strike. Knowing how much money they're leaving on the table, oh man, that would look awful.
And this is where it starts to get genuinely risky. Union leadership recently met with players from Athletes Unlimited, which matters because it's a direct competitor, and several WNBA union members play there during the off-season. That overlap gives the players real leverage and real alternatives. All of this unfolded during a 6-week stretch with no counterproposal from the owners. Time the union used to regroup and meet in Miami following the strike authorization vote in December. Players Association President Nneka Agwumike has acknowledged that a strike is very much on the table, even as she stresses that more discussions still need to happen. But that's the stark reality hanging over all of this. A potential strike in a league that has never turned a profit at the exact moment when interest and visibility are finally surging.
I know a lot of people don't like to have this brought up, but of a league that's never turned a profit, a player strike will look ridiculous. It will look absurd. I mean, wow. So if the league was to ever come back, is anybody going to care? The damage these players are not thinking about the damage that was done to Major League Baseball at one time because of a work stoppage. It took years for the league to be able to bounce back. One could argue that was the passing of the torch from Major League Baseball to the NFL, because the NFL had Major League Baseball had a work stoppage. It killed the World Series that year, and then it took about 5 years for fans to start coming back. It took the McGwire, Sosa, Bonds home run record chase that was epic, but it took that many years to get fans tuned back in, and guess what? The ratings never did come back. Major League Baseball was a ratings juggernaut, and then that work stoppage happened, and that was all she wrote. The NFL passed them and never looked back. I mean, you're just now getting eyeballs in the WNBA. And again, who blames the owners for wanting to make sure all of this is real anyway? They better heed the warning from fans saying, hey, we don't want to see Caitlin Clark have this shit beat out of her. If this keeps happening, we're going to tune back out. How them advertisers going to feel about that media rights deal if that happens?
Just look at Major League Baseball. In 1994, the players went on strike and wiped out the World Series entirely. Fans were livid. It took years to claw people back, and even then it required the once-in-a-generation Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa home run chase to reignite interest. That stretch is remembered as one of the most electric moments in baseball history, and it still didn't fully repair the damage. MLB's ratings never returned to their pre-strike dominance. Before the stoppage, baseball sat comfortably at the top of American sports. After it, the NFL blew past them and never looked back. One labor dispute permanently reshaped the sports landscape. Now zoom out and look at where the WNBA is right now. The league is finally pulling in eyeballs it never had before. Caitlin Clark's rookie season brought in viewers who had never watched women's basketball, period. Ratings were smashing records. Advertisers noticed. The league locked in a new media rights deal worth roughly $2.2 billion over 11 years, a massive leap from the previous contract. Momentum isn't hypothetical, it's measurable. But momentum is fragile, especially when your newest fans are telling you exactly what they don't like. Viewers watched Clark take relentless physical punishment, saw questionable no-calls, flagrant contact, and cheap shots that left her limping. And fans were loud about it. If this keeps happening, we're out. That's not bluster. That's how casual fans behave. They don't have decades of loyalty to a league they just discovered. Their loyalty is to the player who pulled them INS. Oh, what happens if there's a work stoppage? If the 2025 season is delayed, shortened, or worst case canceled, those casual fans vanish. They aren't waiting around for labor talks to resolve. They'll find something else to watch. And when the league comes back, many of them won't. The hit wouldn't be gradual. It would be immediate and potentially permanent. Then there's the advertiser side. Brands committed serious money based on last season's engagement. What happens to those deals if games don't happen? What happens to partnerships with companies like Gatorade, Nike, and others that finally decided women's basketball was worth the investment? Those contracts come with performance clauses. No games means no audience. No audience means no value. And once sponsors pull back, getting them to return is far harder than convincing them to show up the first time. The players' union believes there's leverage, and on paper, maybe it does. The league can't function without the players. But leverage in sports only works if the other side thinks you'll actually use it. With owners leaking detailed financial proposals to ESPN, it feels like they're daring the union to do exactly that. They're putting the numbers in public view. Guaranteed salary growth, roughly 70% of net revenue, improved travel, facilities, and infrastructure. That makes it harder for the players to argue exploitation in the court of public opinion. Which brings everything back to the 30% of gross revenue demand. Why hold that line? Because it's about principle, not just math. The players believe they're the product, and therefore they should receive a cut of every dollar before the league pays its bills. The same structure NBA players have used successfully for decades. The problem is simple and uncomfortable. The NBA is profitable. The WNBA isn't. That's not rhetoric. It's accounting. Owners are saying, we'll give you most of the profits after we cover the cost of running a professional league. The players are saying, your costs aren't our concern. Pay us first. Those positions don't overlap. Without meaningful movement, there is no deal to be made. Who blinks? Does the union soften the gross revenue demand and accept the net-based offer? Do the owners concede and absorb even larger short-term losses while betting on long-term growth? Or does neither side move, triggering a stoppage that hits the league at the worst possible moment? The clock is ticking. May 8th is approaching fast. Expansion draft, free agency, rookie draft. None of it can proceed without a CBA. Every day without a deal increases the odds of missing the season start. Nneka Ogwumike has said she's confident games will be played in 2025, but confidence doesn't close negotiations. At some point, someone has to give. The only real question left is who and how much damage happens before they do.